Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about human nature and relationships. Sometimes what you don't get is exactly what you want. You ever notice how the more you try to act like you're not interested, the more attention you suddenly start getting? Yeah, it's like that with people, especially in love. When a man ignores you, it might seem like he's walking away, but in reality, that's when he's thinking about you the most. Now listen, people often get caught up in the idea that when someone ignores them, it means they just don't care. But that's where you've been fooled by your own feelings. Ignoring someone doesn't always mean they don't want you around. In fact, sometimes ignoring is the opposite. It's a sign that someone is so interested, so wrapped up in their own emotions that they don't quite know how to handle it. And instead of jumping in head first, they pull back. That's right. They step away because they're trying to figure out what this feeling is, what it means, and how to deal with it. That pullback, that's not disinterest. It's a deeper kind of interest. Let me break this down for you in a way you can understand. Imagine a man who's been hurt before, who's been burned by love. He's scared to show his cards because the last time he did, it didn't end well. So when he feels something real starting to grow inside him for someone, maybe you, his first instinct isn't to run toward you and shout it from the rooftops. No, it's to pull away, to ignore, to protect himself. That ignoring isn't about you being unimportant. It's about him trying to guard that tender feeling inside until he knows for sure it's safe. Now, some folks might say, well, if he cared, he'd just say it. And I get that. We live in a world where we want things fast, easy, and clear. But emotions don't always come wrapped in clear packages. Sometimes they come messy, confusing, and even hidden behind silence. Ignoring someone can be a sign that a person's wrestling with their own feelings, trying to make sense of what they want versus what they fear. And because feelings are scary, they choose to ignore rather than risk rejection or vulnerability. Here's another thing to think about. When a man ignores you, it could also be his way of testing himself and the situation. He's trying to see if what he's feeling is real or just a passing fancy. He might be wondering, is this girl really worth stepping out and being vulnerable for? Or am I just caught up in a moment? Ignoring can be a way for him to give himself space to figure this out without pressure. And that space, as much as it hurts when you're on the other side of it, is necessary for him to build the kind of obsession that lasts beyond a crush. And don't get me wrong, ignoring can also be a way to keep his pride intact. Men especially are taught to hide their emotions and act strong, so ignoring you might be his way of holding on to that image while inside he's thinking about you all the time. That's the paradox. On the outside, he's cool, distant, maybe even aloof. But on the inside, you're all he can think about. Think about it like this. When you want something really badly, sometimes you don't chase it head on because the risk of losing it is too much. So you hold back, you stay quiet, and in that quiet, you're obsessed with what could be. That's the human condition. Ignoring can be the smoke hiding the fire. I know that can be hard to believe because when you're the one being ignored, your mind goes straight to, I'm not important to him. But sometimes the truth is way more complicated. Ignoring doesn't mean you're not in his thoughts. It means you're in his thoughts so much that he doesn't know how to act. So he freezes, so he pulls back instead of pushing forward. This is why patience is such a powerful thing. When you understand that ignoring isn't always a rejection, you start to see the bigger picture. You realize that maybe the man who's ignoring you is battling his own feelings, trying to figure out if what he has for you is real. And when he finally does figure it out, that obsession you've been waiting for will hit like a freight train. So don't take ignoring at face value. Don't let it make you doubt your worth. Sometimes it's just a quiet before the storm of obsession, attention, and love that's been building underneath all that silence. And when that storm comes, it's not just going to knock on your door. It's going to break the whole house down. Remember, the more he ignores you, the more obsessed he's becoming, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares so much he's scared to admit it, even to himself. Let me tell you something about silence and distance. They are powerful. We tend to think silence means nothing, like someone just doesn't care or has moved on, but that's far from the truth. Silence and distance have a way of messing with our minds, making us think harder, wonder more, and ultimately get obsessed. It's like when you stop hearing from someone you care about, your brain immediately starts filling in the blanks, creating stories, and that right there is where obsession starts growing. When a person pulls away, when they stop calling or texting, it's not always because they've lost interest. Sometimes it's the opposite. They're giving you space, sure, but what that space does is make you ask questions. Why isn't he reaching out? What is he thinking? Does he still care? And you can't help but think about him all day, replaying every little moment in your head, looking for signs. That silence becomes loud, it's deafening, and the more silent it gets, the louder those questions become. Distance and silence create a vacuum, and in that vacuum, your mind rushes to fill the emptiness with thoughts about that person. You might start wondering if he's seeing someone else, if he's thinking about you, or if he's just confused. You want answers so bad, but when they don't come, your curiosity only grows. That curiosity breeds obsession. You start imagining what could be, what might have gone wrong, or what you could do differently to get his attention back. The thing about humans is that we are wired to want what we can't have or don't understand. That's why mystery pulls people in. When a guy pulls away, he becomes a mystery. You want to solve that mystery because the unknown always feels bigger and more important than what you already know. You don't obsess over something that's clear and laid out on a silver platter. You obsess over what's hidden, what's uncertain. Have you ever noticed how when someone is right in front of you, you might take them for granted, but the moment they're not there, suddenly they're all you can think about? That's because absence makes the heart grow fonder, but it also makes your brain work overtime. You start analyzing every interaction, every word, trying to figure out where you stand. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you missed something or if there was a hidden meaning. And all of that mental energy, that's obsession growing quietly. Silence and distance can also be a way for someone to gauge your interest and see how much you care. When he's quiet, he might be watching to see if you'll come around or if you'll give up. That waiting game can make you obsess more because the uncertainty makes you want to prove that you matter. That's the power of distance. It can ignite a fire that wasn't there before, simply because it creates that question of what if? On the flip side, silence and distance give you time to reflect too. It can make you realize how much you want someone or whether you're better off without them. But for the person being ignored, that silence often feels like a puzzle missing a piece. And humans hate puzzles they can't solve. That's why we start obsessing. We need closure. We need to understand or at least try to make sense of the silence. The funny thing is, sometimes silence is the best way to make someone obsessed. When you're always available, there's no urgency, but when you disappear for a while, when you're not always just a text or call away, you suddenly become more interesting. Your absence makes people notice you more, wonder about you more, and yes, become obsessed with figuring you out. So don't underestimate the power of silence and distance. They're not just empty spaces in communication. They're spaces where curiosity grows, where obsession sneaks in, where the mind starts chasing what it can't immediately catch. The more quiet you are, the louder you become in someone's thoughts. The more distant you are, the closer you get in their mind. That's why when someone ignores you, it's not always rejection. Sometimes it's the beginning of something deeper. Because silence and distance are the perfect conditions for obsession to take root and grow strong. Let me tell you something that might sting a little, but it's the truth. Being too available, too easy, too present all the time can actually make a person look less valuable. Now, I know that goes against everything you've been told about love, about showing up, about being there for someone. But people don't always value what's always there. That's just how human nature works. The more available something is, the less rare it feels. And the less rare it feels, the less someone is willing to fight for it. You ever notice how folks treat something they had to work for versus something that was handed to them? If a man had to grind for a car, save up, make sacrifices, he's going to wash it every weekend, park it right, protect it like it's gold. But if you just give him a car for free, he's going to treat it like it's just another ride. Same goes for people. When you give yourself too easily, when you answer every text the second it comes in, when you drop everything just to make time for him, you start to look like something he didn't have to earn. And what he doesn't earn, he won't respect in the same way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying play games. I'm not saying pretend to be busy or fake being unavailable. What I'm saying is have your own life. Have your own schedule. Don't rearrange your whole world every time he calls. When a man sees that you've got a full life, goals, confidence, independence, that's when you shine. That's when you become someone he's got to reach for. And that effort is what builds value in his eyes. When you're always there, you become predictable, and predictability can turn into comfort, and comfort, if it's too easy, can turn into boredom. Now, that doesn't mean you should become cold or distant. It means you got to find that balance where you give just enough, but still leave a little room for him to wonder, to chase, to step up. That chase isn't about playing hard to get. It's about creating space where he can realize your worth on his own. Some of the most powerful relationships begin when a person realizes they could lose you. That realization doesn't come when you're texting them every morning and every night, waiting by the phone for a reply, always saying yes to every plan. That realization comes when you step back, when you take your time, when you make it clear that you've got value, not just to him, but in your own life. A man respects what he has to reach for. If you're just standing there saying, here I am, take all of me, before he's even shown any real commitment, you're giving him the prize before the race even starts. Let him earn you. Let him wonder what's going on in your world when he hasn't heard from you in a minute. That space makes you special. That space makes you memorable. That space makes him think. Think about how many times someone lost interest just because everything came too easy. No mystery, no challenge, no depth, just all laid out from the beginning. That's not how long-term connections are built. Long-term connection needs curiosity, it needs respect, it needs time. And that time comes when you're not always available for every little moment. It grows when he has to make an effort, when he realizes you're not just an option, you're the prize. So remember, your time, your energy, your attention, that's all valuable. Treat it like it is. When you give it away too freely, people stop seeing it as something worth earning. But when you know your worth, when you stand strong in it, you force others to rise up to meet you. And the ones who do, those are the ones worth keeping. There's something about mystery that just pulls people in. That little bit of unpredictability, that small gap of not knowing what you're going to do next or what you're thinking. That's what keeps somebody up at night wondering, imagining, replaying. You see, people don't get emotionally tied to what's easy to read. They get hooked on what they don't fully understand yet. When you're mysterious, when you don't lay all your cards out on the table from day one, you create emotional tension. And that tension, that's where obsession starts to grow. When a man can predict everything about you, when he knows how you'll react, what you'll say, what you'll do, there's no fire in that. There's no surprise. And without surprise, there's no chase. Think about the best movies, the ones that keep you glued to the screen. It's not because you know what's going to happen. It's because you don't. It's the twist, the turn, the unexpected moment that makes you lean in. People are the same way. We lean into mystery. We become emotionally tied to the people who leave a little space for imagination. Now, don't confuse mystery with mind games. This isn't about being fake or trying to manipulate anyone. This is about maintaining your depth. You're not supposed to be a book that can be read in one sitting. You're supposed to be a novel that takes time, that keeps unfolding. That's what keeps a man coming back. When he doesn't know everything about you, when there's more to learn, more to discover, he stays curious. And curiosity is powerful. Curiosity keeps people thinking about you even when you're not around. You ever meet someone who just had this energy, like they weren't trying too hard to impress you, like they had something going on inside they weren't just handing out to everybody? That's mystery. That's the type of person who draws attention without even trying. That's the person you think about later when the room is empty. And if you mix a little unpredictability into that, now you've really got something. Because when you're unpredictable, not erratic, not unstable, but just unexpected in a way that feels alive, you stand out. And standing out is what makes someone remember you when the rest of the world feels ordinary. A woman who moves with confidence, who does what she wants, who doesn't wait around for someone else to define her, she is magnetic. She might say no sometimes. She might take her time to respond. She might choose her own path without explaining herself. That energy says, you don't own me and you don't know everything about me. And that's the kind of energy that creates emotional pull. It's not about being cold. It's about being full of purpose, full of life, full of mystery. Predictability is comfortable, but comfort doesn't create fire. Fire comes from the unknown. Fire comes when someone's mind is constantly turning, wondering, what is she thinking? Why did she say that? What's going on in her world right now? That wondering keeps the bond alive. That wondering becomes emotional investment. That wondering turns into obsession. And that's when you go from being just another person he met to being someone he can't stop thinking about. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. All you have to do is hold a little bit back. Let him earn the deeper parts of you. Let him wonder. Let him chase. Let him experience that beautiful, unpredictable spirit you carry. Because when a man doesn't know exactly what to expect, that's when he starts paying real attention. That's when his emotions get involved. That's when you stop being an option and start becoming unforgettable. Let me tell you something about men that a lot of people don't understand. Men are wired for the chase. I'm talking deep down in the way they're built. It's part of their nature to pursue, to conquer, to go after something that isn't easy to catch. And I know in today's world where everyone's telling you to be open, to give your all right away, it might seem like being too available is the way to a man's heart. But I'm here to tell you that when something comes too easy, a man doesn't always value it the same way. Men thrive off the challenge. They feel alive when they're chasing something they believe is worth the effort. It's in their DNA. If you hand yourself over before he's even had to do anything, no work, no waiting, no wondering, then you've taken away the very thing that makes his feelings grow stronger. A man doesn't fall in love with easy. He falls in love with effort. The more he has to think, work, and stretch himself to win you over, the deeper the emotion he attaches to you. Think about a hunter. The thrill isn't in walking outside and having the animal lie down at his feet. The thrill is in tracking it, following it, reading the signs, trying to outthink it. That's where the passion lives, in the effort, in the strategy, in the challenge. When a man sees a woman who's got her own life, her own purpose, and isn't just waiting around to be chosen, he sees a challenge. He sees someone worth winning, and once he invests energy in that pursuit, he becomes emotionally invested too. And that's when obsession begins. Men respect what they work for. That's a fact. You give him your time, your energy, your love after he's proven himself, after he's shown he's serious. That's when it means something. But if you're giving it all up front just because he smiled or said the right thing a couple of times, he won't feel that same level of appreciation. Why? Because he didn't earn it. And what you don't earn, you don't protect. You don't value it the same. You ever notice how a man lights up when he's trying to impress you? When he's planning dates, texting first, showing up, trying to stand out from the rest? That's him in pursuit mode. That's him doing what he's built to do. But when you start doing all the work for him, initiating everything, bending over backwards, trying to prove you're the one, you take that fire out of his hands. He doesn't need to chase because you've already arrived. And once the chase is gone, for some men, the thrill is gone too. This doesn't mean you act cold or distant. This isn't about being rude or ignoring a man just to play a game. It's about understanding that men connect through pursuit. It's about knowing your worth and letting him show he sees it. If he's interested, he'll pursue. If he's serious, he'll stay consistent. If he's obsessed, he won't stop chasing even after he's got you. And that's what you want. Someone who sees the value, puts in the effort, and stays in pursuit because you're not just anyone, you're the reward. Let him rise up to meet your standards. Let him step into the role of the pursuer. Because when a man works for you, fights for you, chooses you again and again, that's not just interest, that's commitment. That's real emotion. That's where the obsession begins. And it doesn't come from giving it all away. It comes from letting him feel like he earned something no other man could. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make in any relationship is simply to pull back, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of control. Emotional detachment isn't about not caring. It's about choosing not to beg, not to chase, not to overinvest in someone who hasn't earned that kind of energy. And the moment you stop trying so hard, the moment you lean back instead of leaning in, everything shifts. That man starts paying attention in a whole new way. Because when your emotions are no longer tied up in his every move, that creates tension. That creates curiosity. That creates desire. You see, when someone knows they've got your heart wrapped around their finger, they stop trying. That's just how it is. People, men especially, respond to what they can't fully grasp. When you act like your world rises and falls based on how he treats you, he feels no urgency, no pressure, no need to level up. But when you pull your emotions back, when you stop reacting, when you let silence do the talking, now you've created a gap. And in that gap, his desire starts to grow. It's like this. The less available you are emotionally, the more he starts to wonder about you. You're no longer crying, begging, or constantly explaining yourself. You're not asking where it's going. You're not trying to control the outcome. You're just living peacefully, quietly, strongly, and trust me, that silence speaks volumes. It makes him question if he still has a place in your world. And that question becomes a need to know, a need to fix, a need to win you back. That's where the tension starts. And that tension, that's what keeps a man up at night. Now, I'm not saying you turn cold. I'm not saying you cut him off with no explanation. I'm saying you stop overfeeding him emotionally. Stop giving him the benefit of all your energy when he hasn't stepped up to deserve it. Emotional detachment is about power. It's about poise. It's about staying in your lane and let him figure out if he's ready to come meet you there. You're not punishing him, you're just prioritizing your peace. And here's the thing, men are attracted to women who can control their emotions. That kind of woman is rare. She doesn't lose herself trying to hold on to someone else. She doesn't let her feelings dictate her worth. When she's hurt, she deals with it privately. When she's confused, she doesn't rush to fix it. She steps back and observes. And that kind of emotional discipline is magnetic because it shows strength. It shows that you have options. It shows that your happiness isn't based on him. A woman who is emotionally detached in the right way doesn't come off bitter. She comes off balanced. And that balance throws him off. He doesn't know how to read her. He doesn't know if she's moved on, if she's still thinking about him, or if he ever mattered as much as he thought he did. That mystery, that emotional distance creates space. And in that space, his desire grows. He starts missing the energy you used to give him, the conversations, the connection, the way you made him feel. But now it's not there. And the truth is, people only appreciate what they once had when it's no longer being offered freely. That's when the real obsession kicks in. Because emotional detachment makes him realize what he lost. And if he really wants it back, he has to do something about it. He has to step up, level up, and re-earn the place he once took for granted.